Well, welcome back, everybody. It's Lisa Gunshore. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Buddhist Biohacker, and we are here with the amazing Julie Hoyle, author and teacher, and I don't know, just everything amazing. Julie, I'm so glad we're doing this today.
Yeah, me too. This is great fun.
Oh, it so is. And episode number 4 today, we're going to talk about the dangers and distractions of siddhis. With siddhis, these supernatural powers, there always comes temptation. And it wouldn't be Julie and I if we didn't talk about the shadow side of the siddhis. And I'll throw out there are warnings in the yogic and Buddhist texts about the siddhis. So Patanjali actually wrote in his own text that the siddhis could be obstacles to samadhi or self-realization. And the Tibetan texts also warn about the misuse of power. And so let's get into that, the shadow side. We started to talk about it a little bit with the inflation of the ego. But I think there's a real challenge with disassociation. I think we see that more than anything with all of this channeling stuff. I mean, and actually I couldn't finish my channeling book, Julie, until I finally figured out how I wanted to talk about this, because there's so much disassociation, people thinking that they're seeing something that's not real and so on and so forth, and using it to bypass.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So one of the many things that is problematic when it comes to the supernatural powers, or the psychic, kind of the ordinary psychic phenomenon is how I'd put it, is that there can be a belief that the more psychic powers you have, or the more siddhis you have, the more elevated you are. And that can be a focus on developing those, and as you said, bypassing and not wanting to be in the body, and not wanting to deal with a shitty boss at work, or not wanting to face the fact that you're in a relationship that you hate, you can't stand your partner, or you want to be in partnership with someone. So instead of really looking at your own life and the challenges in your life, there can be an orientation towards, well, let me meditate more so I won't be so angry. Let me try and have an out-of-body experience, or let me try and, travel to the astral planes so that I feel better about where I am in my life. And of course, you can do that to a certain extent for a period of time, but ultimately all of that will just keep biting you in the butt until you realize that, hey, you're charged with being in the body, taking care of your life, challenges in your life, being honest with yourself about what's happening, and then recognizing that as enticing as psychic phenomenon and siddhis can be, they're not it. They're just kind of signposts, or they're aspects of a shift of consciousness, but they're not the ultimate goal. And this is why the master yogis and Sufi masters and Tibetan masters, they all carry the same warning label in terms of, don't get stuck, because you can really get stuck in all of that. It's so easy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and with all of the psychic development I've worked on myself all these years, the siddhis to me are very spontaneous, potent initiation experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They're very rarely, okay, I worked really hard to get out of my body and I had an out-of-body experience. And I've done it, y'all. I have done it. I have read the books and listened to the DVDs and had the out-of-body experience. And what happened was I was super freaked out by it because it wasn't at all something I was ready for, versus these spontaneous kind of little mini awakenings that happen because you're working on your own psyche. And so I think that's the thing, is you can't really make a siddhi happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think.
No. And the great beings, Bhagavan Nityananda, said that the supernatural powers are kind of given, they're a bit like candy given to a child help the child become more focused or disciplined or whatever. But they certainly are not it. And but as with chocolate or candy, we like to keep stuffing our faces with
Yes.
with these things, and we want more and we want more and we want more, and ultimately that's where we can really get stuck. We can get so stuck. So there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with developing psychic
Mm-mm.
abilities, intuition, or whatever it is. But ultimately, the more you pay attention in your life, the more you become present in your life, the more these gifts just naturally blossom and flower. And they are available to you if, as and when you're being called to help support someone, or you're helped to uplift humanity, or you're asked to write a book about your awakening, or whatever that story looks like. But it's always about being in the flow of your own higher self or higher intelligence, and allowing those abilities, those gifts, to serve source itself, or to serve your own higher knowing and higher kind of expression of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. And that giving service is so important to talk about, because the devotional practices to awakening. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, my journal and self-inquiry is a devotional practice towards awakening, which is my North Star.
Yes.
And also giving service, that, right, sweep the floor before enlightenment, sweep the floor after enlightenment, like whether it's community service or it's just being present with my kids and listening to them talk, like all of those to me are devotional practices that keep you in humility,
Mm-hmm.
and in compassion, and that lends towards the opening of the cities, I feel.
Yes.
My lucid dream experiences, my astral travel experiences, those happen often when I'm so exhausted from some kind of work or focus I'm doing. And even the books, to me, Julie, writing books is devotional practice.
Yes.
These books I finished over the summer, it was like I wasn't in charge of my fingers. It just was like, boom, all this stuff is getting done. Get it done. The Shakti flowed through me. And in that completion, as soon as I could put all that down and I was in that exhaustion, is when I've been having these really profound, awesome lucid dream experiences the last few weeks. And so I think when you say yes to what you're being called to do, and you do the physical work and the actual get it done, then spirit offers up these incredible, like you said, the little city chocolates. You get
Yes.
like special gifts that come through those devotional practices. If you're not willing to do the work, I don't think they come.
No. And the thing is, it's really easy to give up on doing the work, especially when you're asked to do something bigger, like creating a website or writing a book or doing something that scares you shitless, so to speak. It can be really easy to give up and to tell yourself, oh, I can't do it. But the more you face down what terrifies you when you're asked to create something like writing a book or a blog or whatever it is, the more you're then able to challenge those beliefs and the conditioning that's in place that is telling you can't do what you've been asked to do. And so there's a tremendous gift in terms of what opens up when you have the courage to do what you're asked to do. And then inevitably, these siddhis start to manifest more fully. Your psychic gifts start to grow and blossom. And so they go hand in hand. You're not chasing those. They just come as a result of you saying yes to what you've been asked to do. And my life is a testimony to that, as is yours. I mean, we've done things we probably would never dream that we could do.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens. And I'm not saying it's not work. It can be very hard work.
Yeah, and it can feel very lonely.
Yes.
And so I want to get back to this idea of chasing powers. This whole idea of chasing powers. versus doing the inner work. And I think what's really beautiful about what's unfolded in the 20 years we've known each other, Julie, because that's what's going to be soon.
Yes.
You know, in 20 years, I think what has happened that I've learned from you, and also just our connection and what's blossomed, is the inner work becomes the journey towards the powers. And I think that's what both of us are pointing to with what we've written about in our courses and all of these hundreds of YouTube videos we've done together and on our own, is just to encourage every single one of you out there, when you pick up a pencil and a notebook and you start to explore yourself, that is the path,
yes,
to the Siddhis.
Yes. 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 We can tend to think we get there in terms of the Siddhis by sitting and meditating for 3 hours, or chanting texts for 2 hours or something, or learning how to stand on your head or whatever it is. But oftentimes it's just grappling with our own resistances, with our own dynamic when it comes to our psychic makeup, our psychological makeup, I should say, and just staring that down and having a conversation with what is true and what is real, and trying to kind of dissolve some of the things that we've inherited that don't even belong to us. We just take them on, and we've been hypnotized by these beliefs that have run through our family lineage. And when you start doing that, and you start dissolving all of those ties that bind you, then there's freedom. And so, of course, very naturally, the Siddhis just start to open up and they start to manifest. And it happens without us looking for them or even thinking about them. They just kind of land. And that's how it is.
Yeah. And one of the distractions, can be a false guru or a false teacher. And it doesn't even mean that the guru isn't a guru. We have watched gurus fall from grace.
Mm-hmm.
We've experienced our parents falling from grace, or a teacher we really loved, or our best friend that we thought was our best friend. And I just want to offer that that's part of it, is we get caught up in, the guru, the being, the teacher, oh my God, she's the most incredible yoga teacher I've ever seen. And then all of a sudden we find out they are an alcoholic, or
Yes.
they really, don't work very hard to become who they are. Or, look at Yogi Bhajan, he was trafficking drugs and weapons. Like, the Kundalini community fell, right? All these things happen. And I just want to share I believe the reason those things happen is to dissolve these distractions so that you can find your way back to what these powers are really all about. And so I think when you think of, false teachers and false prophets and people falling from grace, like it really, I think, is just a disillusionment of something you've created within yourself, which goes back to the spiritual bypassing. I think it's real tricky with the trance channeling, because I think trance channeling is real. And I think you can get caught up in just staying in that little world, whatever world you've decided to go into, or, we're going to go battle these demons. Now, have I battled demons in a lucid dream? Of course we have.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're insisting on I'm having deja vu right now. If we're insisting on putting ourselves into a story rather than being in the present moment on planet Earth where we are right now, we risk those Siddhis and those powers, however I'm trying to say that. I'm not doing very good with my words, but
yes. Yeah. But I think what you're speaking to really comes back to having the courage to trust your own inner guidance and your own resonance, because we can feel truth. We really can. We can really feel it as a physical sensation, or there's a pulsation, or there's something that we know, that we recognize as being true. Even if somebody's telling you the most kind of outlandish, bizarre story, if it's coming from a place of truth and it's a true story, a true representation, we know. And if somebody's standing in front of us telling us something that seemingly on the surface sounds legitimate, that is a bunch of crap. We just know, we feel it. But what often happens is we bypass our own resonance because we give the power away to a teacher or a guru, because we like to believe that they know better than we do. And ultimately, the truth is that no one knows better than you, because any authentic guru or teacher is only there as a kind of a physical manifestation to show you that the guru is within you. And they're there to kind of teach you how to honor and trust your own inner guru. And once you start really leaning into that trust and then following where that is pointing to and leading you to, you'll never go far wrong. But of course, most people kind of give that away to whoever sounds great, and or convincing, and they don't trust themselves.
Yeah. And it's really easy to get in that place where you feel like, well, I've got to have a reading, or I've got to do this, or I've got to get this information. And that was a hard habit for me to break, because I was a reader. And so we were constantly, everybody's reading each other. You go to psychic fair, all the readers read each other. It's like a whole thing. And I really had to actively practice to not look at my cards. And even to this day, it's not always easy, because I want to look and see, or I want to validate my own intuition. And it's really hard to say, you know what, I just have to be in the experience and ride out. And that is not easy. It's just not, but it's worth it, because if you allow yourself to do that, oftentimes you prove out your own intuition, and then it was totally worth waiting.
Yes. Well, I never, for better or worse, I never fell down that rabbit hole, to be honest with you. I just never did, because ever since I was a kid, I always kind of knew whenever I had a question, I would ask inside myself, what should I do here, or what is this, or whatever, and I'd receive the answer, and I just trusted. I just trusted the place from which the answer was given, even before I knew what I was doing. And so I think I may have shared this before, but I think the last kind of reading I had with a medium was here in Nassau in the 80s. I mean, that in 82, I think. And I just have I've never been to anybody for that kind of support, because I've always trusted my own inner guidance. But what I've found through doing the work with people is very few people do trust themselves. They don't trust their intuition. And so the kind of prevailing message through every single thing I've done with my website, with my books, with courses, programs, is always the same primary message, which is trust yourself, trust your own inner guidance, listen to what it's telling you, and follow where it's pointing to, follow where it leads you. And if you can do that, you won't be fooled by false gurus. You won't be handing over a lot of money to people who promise you the sun, the moon, the earth, and the stars. And you'll be, obviously you can get help when you need help with whatever it is. But the point is that even then, even if you're going to somebody for a reading or for insight about something, or, healing work or whatever it is, even then there should be inner resonance with respect to what that person is saying to you or doing with you. And there should be this coherence that's there. If there's no coherence and there's no resonance, then I would just get out of there.
Well, and I'll share too that oftentimes when I'm looking for support, because I'm thinking of myself even right now, like there's some things that I don't feel so great about right now. And, when I'm looking for support, it's often not because I don't trust my intuition, but I don't trust where the situation is unfolding. And so I think it's a really good self-inquiry, because I get stuck in those places where it's like, well, my intuition feels this way, so why am I doing X, Y, Z? So it's a great self-inquiry for those of you out there when you do feel like, you need support. At least it's helped me, is to ask, like, why do I feel off?
Yes.
Because my intuition tells me X, so why am I doing X? And there's usually something else going on behind it. There's something that's pushing you into a direction you don't want to go. So it comes down to a very simple thing of saying, I feel out of alignment about something. And I'm just thinking of myself right now, like I feel out of alignment about something, and yet I'm in the experience. So then it's, what do I learn from this experience, and how do I make a different choice? Or maybe the whole point is to go through the uncomfortable experience. But I just think it's important for everyone out there, like if you're feeling stuck and you're feeling, disillusioned about something, or you're feeling off, is it your intuition? And if you do trust that intuitive hit, where are you out of alignment and why? I think it's important to look at that too. Really important self-inquiry.
Yes. And one other thing I do want to emphasize is that, again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with booking a reading with Lisa, or turning to somebody for support or advice if you're kind of in a sticky place. What I'm trying to say is, trust when you have that resonance to reach out and to book a session or to do some work with a person. And then when you're with that person doing that work, there should be a resonance check. There should be this kind of mutual cohesive coherence in terms of the transmission, what you're receiving, what you're feeling, and what you're perceiving. It should be harmonious. You shouldn't come away thinking, I got nothing out of it. You know what I mean? And that's part and parcel of it. But what often happens is people will just kind of reach out willy-nilly without checking in with what the feeling quality is and whether their intuition is telling them, yes, work with that person. And then that's when they fall short.
Yeah. And I'd also offer, like, not to go on and on about it, but it's so important. I would offer too, are you wanting someone to create for you? Or are you just wanting to understand what you're creating? I think so often, and not so much anymore for me, but it used to be that most of my sessions were people not knowing what to do. And it's not anyone else's job to tell you what to do. Instead, hopefully there's guidance, intuitive information, question asking, coaching, whatever that looks like within the context of the session to help you identify what it is you want to do within your heart. And that's why it's so great to connect with somebody. Like, I've connected with Julie many times, and a lot of times it's so profound because she just gets right to the truth. And hopefully I do that for my clients as well. But that's the thing, is that the authentic information goes straight to the truth of the matter, and you can't really deny it. And then you really are wanting to do work around and look at why you didn't want to do the thing that is the truth. Like what's keeping you from it, So I think that's a key piece of it as well, is are you looking for somebody to tell you what to do? Because you don't want to listen to your intuition and want that? Or are you really just wanting support? Because just like Julie said, I think I just love offering sessions, and I love getting sessions. And I think I'm an external processor. And I think if you are and you want to talk about something, it's just so great to talk to somebody who gets it and to have that conversation and to share what you're feeling and to get validation on what you're feeling and to have somebody point out, oh, this is actually coming up. And it's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Like, that's what makes it so great. So I think, and all these dangers and risks, I think the biggest thing is just to look at what's in alignment with you and what you're doing. And when you're spinning out, how do you get yourself back to center? And sometimes that is a session, and sometimes it's a meditation, and sometimes it's just sitting there for a minute with your journal too.
Yes. Well, the great thing about a session is it can burn through things really, really fast. It's not like you have to do 6 or 7 or 8 or something like that. It's just like a laser. And that can be very beneficial. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is all great. And we're going to go on to the next thing, which is talking about the sacred feminine. So this next episode, I'm sure Julie and I are both going to be inspired by, because we're going to talk about women, witches, and the feminine expression of these mystical powers. So we're really going to talk about the sacred feminine siddhis and the yoginis and the dakinis and what that's all about. So we'll be right back with that. I can't wait. This will be my favorite episode of all, I'm sure. And we'll see you right back here, everybody.